Once more, dear brothers and sisters, this Sunday night at 8 o'clock, let us go into the breach. And man, we're going into the breach tonight because that's all we hear about. That's all we hear about, okay? Racism, racism, racism. Everything is racism. You're a racist if you believe this. You're a racist if you believe that. But when you kill 20 million black babies since 1973, somehow, some way, you escape the charge of being a racist. But that's what big abortion has done to the African-American community in America alone since 1973, and they get away with it. Well, Joe and Joe are not going to let them get away with it. And this is something that we're going to shout from the rooftops, and that's going to be our first conversation tonight that we're going to talk about. The implicit racism in big abortion. And the numbers bear it out. I don't need to know what's in a person's heart to see what the numbers are showing me. Black babies are being killed every day, and Joe and I are going to get into it, and people need to start calling them out for what they are. Truly racist. And we're going to show you how they specifically target, big abortion targets African-American neighborhoods. So we're going to get into that and also mention Benjamin Watson, the NFL player. Good guy, African-American, very outspoken, pro-life advocate. Anti-abortion advocate is what he is. So we're going to talk about some of the comments he made. This one I kind of was sad about. Something hit me. Usually, like when well-known people, when you hear something tragic happen, sometimes I have one reaction or another. I'm truly saddened by this 23-year-old girl in Argentina. She died while having an abortion, and she championed abortion in Argentina. She's one of the reasons the law was changed. I feel horrible for her.
Died 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, she died 2 weeks ago. I feel horrible for her, and we're going to give you a couple of details on that. Ron DeSantis, very quickly becoming a hero for Joe and I, okay? And you want to know why? Because he's like us. He tells it how it is. He doesn't pull any punches, and he does it very effectively. And on top of it, he's a good governor. He's a good governor. Is that right? Republicans, Joe Resinello. As Don Cheech would have went like this, please, Republicans. Well, Republicans should lead antitrust measures in the modern era. Right now, Republicans should lead as far as breaking up a lot of things, okay? So when you're talking about antitrust as far as big tech and other industries, Republicans need to pick this up. And we're going to talk about an article from CNS News that talks about just that. And guess what? Here's another brutally open and honest guy, okay? Senator Rick Scott, who was the governor before DeSantis, who is now the senator from Florida. Well, guess what? Another dude that's not pulling any punches. He wrote a brutal letter to corporate America, okay? As a United States senator, he wrote a brutal and open letter to them, letting them have it and giving them what I think was a needed warning to them, okay? So we're going to break that all down for you too. It's going to be a great conversation. Remember, wherever you are, please help Joe and I by hitting a like, hitting a share, hitting a subscribe on YouTube, hit that little bell for notifications. Do whatever you can to help us get the message out there. As we tell you all the time, because it's true, we are growing. We are growing. We're growing on social media. Joe and I, you can listen to our interviews, great interviews. We did one that aired today with Joshua Mitchell on intersectionality and what was it? Identity politics.
Very, very important conversation.
Yeah, so go to Veritas Catholic Network, either in the Apple Tune Store or whatever Play Store on Android. You could download the app, or you could Google it and go on there and hit Frontline with Joe and Joe, and it'll take you to where you could download all of our podcasts. Bill Donahue, Raymond Arroyo, Chris Bell.
We got some good ones coming.
And we got some really good ones coming. But this one with Joshua Mitchell, if you're interested in a Catholic Georgetown professor's take on identity politics, this was an hour of red meat that you'll love. Veritas Catholic Network. And finally, we're on the Crusade Channel, as you know, at crusadechannel.com, the last live radio station standing. We're on Mondays. And make sure you take advantage of the free 30-day trial subscription for Mike Church's channel down there. He's got a great lineup. Having said all that, let's talk abortion and racism.
This is a very, very, very important conversation. Very. And anytime people talk about systemic racism, this is the topic, if you ask me. Abortion. Abortion is the most systemic racist organization, industry, we could just say Planned Parenthood is the organization in America. And here's the interesting thing. The New York Times is calling out Margaret Sanger now. Interesting. Let's break it down. This comes from Newsbusters, this information that we're going to basically convey. The CEO of the biggest abortion business in America finally came out and owned up to the dark past of its founder, Margaret Sanger. Planned Parenthood, this is in quotes, must fully take responsibility for the harm that Sanger caused to generations of people with disabilities who are Black, Latino, Asian American, and Indigenous people. This is from Alex McGill Johnson, who wrote this article in the New York Times. The New York Times is saying this, and this is what else they said. Sanger's association with white supremacist groups and eugenics. Sanger is on record, I believe, calling African-American people weeds. Weeds. And they have never said a word about it until now. Do you know that there was talk a while back that she was potentially going to be put on the $20 bill?
Not no more.
The only people who spoke out about it were African-American pastors in the South. This is been known, and no one says a word. Now, let me break down some statistics for you. Okay, so
very important to realize, because we're making a statement, but the numbers bear it out. Joe and I were talking before the show. The numbers bear it out. If this ain't racist, I don't know what is.
20 million Black babies have been aborted since Roe v. Wade was passed, and that was in 1973. Black children make up 36% of all abortions in America. So that's 1 out of every 3 abortions. It's a Black child, despite the fact that African Americans only comprise 13.4% of the population. Mm-hmm. Planned Parenthood alone kills 247 Black babies a day, while this is the one. 86% of all Planned Parenthood abortion facilities are in walking distance from minority neighborhoods. Why is that?
Now, but let's break it down.
Why is that?
Let's break it down a little bit. You made a statement. You brought out a number. 36% of abortions in America, the victims are African American, as opposed to them being 13% or so of the population. But here's where the angering part for Joe and Joe. Well, we constantly have to hear about, well, African Americans are only 13.4% of the population, but they're overrepresented in the prison population. Okay, I think that you could legitimately say, then there's something to be looked at there. There must be a problem that needs to be addressed, whatever it might be. I'm not arguing about that. But the same people never want to point out this statistic, that 3 times the amount, relative to their percentage of the population, 3 times the amount of Black babies are killed, okay? And like I said, nobody says a word.
And hold on, right? Sissy, what are you talking about that this is propaganda? This isn't propaganda. You're the one who believes the propaganda. I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Do you know that during the Bloomberg administration in Soho, at this time, 2/3 of all the abortions in New York were Black children, to the point that more Black children were aborted in New York City than were born alive. A billboard was put up in Soho. Bloomberg made them take it down because he thought it was going to start a riot. This isn't propaganda. You listen to propaganda.
Well, Sissy might be saying that Planned Parenthood is propaganda.
Okay. If I'm attacking you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Sissy, if we got that wrong, we apologize.
But I'm just saying.
We love you.
Maybe I am, because I'm a little.
Well, no, it could go either way. But Sissy, but you know, again, I think you're saying that's what they're trying to do.
Okay, if that's the case, I apologize. I'm a crazy person. I can't help myself. But my point is, this is not propaganda. Why aren't all of the Black activists out there, and there are many of them, speaking about this?
Because it doesn't.
Why?
It doesn't help their cause. Remember something, we've said this before. When the Black liberal establishment, okay, and yes, it's the Black liberal establishment, they're in bed with all this. They're in bed with all this. They have no problem. They have no problem with an abortion clinic being within walking distance of a minority neighborhood. Whereas Blacks and Latinos and people of color, okay, no problem whatsoever. But that's all you ever hear them talk about. Why is there a liquor store on every corner? My question is, okay, fine, but then why is there an abortion clinic on every border?
86%
on every corner.
Why aren't they in white neighborhoods? Why? Why aren't they in rich white neighborhoods? Why? It's never talked about. And here's another thing. He mentioned Benjamin Watson, who is an ex-NFL black athlete who is pro-life. I think he has 7 kids of his own.
Yeah, God bless him.
Very outspoken. This is what he had to say, and he's been saying this for some time. This is what
Ben did a documentary.
Yes, he did
recently. And I forgot which whether it's Amazon or one of them, okay, but where he confronts this. I'm surprised they actually let him have a platform, knowing how Hollywood is. But nonetheless, and he interviewed a lot of African American, Alveda King, and people like that for the documentary. I didn't see it. I saw the trailer for it. So this guy's very outspoken. He's very outspoken. God bless him.
This is what he had to say. Whether they personally identify with Sanger's ideology or not, they continue to carry out their mission by serving as the leading executioner of our children. This is Watson words, not mine, and he is an African-American male. The same Sanger they claim to disavow would applaud their efforts and results, as disproportionate percentages of Black children have been killed in Planned Parenthood abortion clinics. Acknowledging a racist history does not absolve them of the blood on their hands, as they continue to take advantage of victims of the racism they decry.
Right.
And this is an African American. Where is the coverage on that?
Well, here's a very important angle we have to take on this. Why is Planned Parenthood doing this? Now, last year during COVID, I took a ride down, not because I'm so great, just happened to be something I wanted to do. And I took a ride down. I did a live Facebook little clip in front of the Planned Parenthood of Greater New York down on Bleecker Street, all right, where the street sign still says Margaret Sanger Square, by the way. I went down there because I said, when is that street sign going to come down? Now, I was under the impression that they were going to take the sign down. They never took the sign down. What they did do was they took her name off the building. So it wasn't like her name wasn't attached to the building. Remember something, these people aren't sorry for any of this. Let's be clear, all you good people out there that are watching, Joyful Mike's here, Colin, Suzanne, Tom Gugliotta, you got all you good people. This is not shocking to us. What are they doing here? They're trying to absolve themselves of their racist past without acknowledging that the very business that they're conducting is inherently racist. You know what I'm saying? And the New York Times is basically giving them that pass. Listen, guys, this is how it goes. Joe and I are not stupid. We know how it goes in the back rooms. The back room turned around. They turned and said, look, Margaret Sanger is just a stone cold racist, and you guys are not going to be able to get away with this anymore. Okay. So what you need to do is you need to come out and disavow her so you can continue to kill Black babies. Because they didn't say, like Benjamin Watson said, they're not saying that they're going to stop doing this. They're not saying they're going to shut down Planned Parenthoods in Harlem and the Bronx, in Camden, all right, Newark. They're not shutting any of that stuff down, as Benjamin Watson says. They are going to continue their racist practice, their racist business, but outwardly they're going to be able to, like Alexis McGill Johnson, who runs Planned Parenthood, they'll say, well, we disavowed Margaret Sanger. Yeah, but you're fulfilling her mission. And the New York Times is enabling them to do that. See, they're trying to put it out there as a kind of a mea culpa. We are sorry about this. But if you're sorry about this, you change your position from pro-death to pro-life, and you start helping Black families stay together and rebuild the Black family in America if you wanted to do something good. But we know that you're not interested in that. And the other thing is this, and you can comment on this, is that their business in the inner city is to convince those young Black girls to kill their babies, knowing they can't pay for it, and then getting the government to make you pay for it. That's another nefarious aspect of their business. What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, like I said, clearly the target market is minority communities, because 86% of their facilities are in walking distance of those communities. Now, all I have to say is, why isn't that called out? Why isn't that called out?
Mm-hmm.
It's so apparent. Now, why it's not called out? Because this is a sacrament to the left, abortion. It's a sacrament. They see no problem with it. But the thing that they should be, that you should see a problem with it, you're targeting minorities. You are. Because it's in their communities. It's not in white communities. It's not in rich communities. It's in minority communities. And the overwhelming population are Black children.
Mm-hmm.
No one says boo.
That's
Where's
right.
Al Sharpton on that? Where's MSNBC on that? Where's CNN on that?
Right.
Not a peep. Not a peep. This is why the hypocrisy of the left is basically, it's collapsing upon itself. Do you realize this? I was talking to my wife about this today. They have both the House and the Senate, basically. They have not passed one thing.
No.
They have not passed one thing because their own people, Democrats in the Senate, are not buying it. They're overplaying their hand. They're absolutely collapsing under their own weight. They have not passed one single bill, Joe.
I like that you brought up the House. Let's talk about them for a minute. So you have this representative. His name's Mondaire Jones. Okay. So Mondaire Jones, he's from one of the boroughs. He's one of the districts out there. So this is what bothers me about this story is that the actual racists, the people that promote the slaughter of innocent black babies are not racist. But Mondaire Jones gets up there on the House floor and he says, if you are opposed to statehood for Washington, D.C., you're a racist. Do you see what we're dealing with here? Do you see why we have to open our mouths? Wait. No. His argument is that D.C. is primarily 90% African American. What the hell does that have to do with it? That's not a reason why people are opposed to D.C. statehood. I tell you what, Representative Jones, the reason why we are opposed to D.C. being a state is because we don't want to give you another 2 senators by illegitimately making a state out of an area that's not supposed to be a state.
Well, we could even get past the 2 senator argument. It wasn't intended to be a state. When the country was established, D.C. was the place where all the states would send their representatives. That was the idea behind forming the District of Columbia.
Right.
So it has nothing to, granted, that's their goal. And it's never going to pass. Another thing that's not going to pass, keep that in mind. They have not passed a single thing. Not a single thing. You would think, and keep this in mind, in 18 months, most likely they are going to lose the House and they will not be in the majority of the Senate. And then Joe Biden's regime is over.
I mean, it's over for the reason that you mentioned.
Over.
The reason that you mentioned, okay, is the fact that Democrats in the Senate, perfect example. All right. Democrats, there's about 7 Democrats in the Senate who are opposed to raising the corporate tax from 21 to 28%. That's not getting passed. It's not getting passed. So Nancy Pelosi could get up there and she can pass anything you want. It ain't getting past the Senate, and mainly because not every Democrat is as wacko as Mondaire Jones and Nancy Pelosi and Hank Johnson, who thinks Guam is going to capsize if you put too much military on the island. The island is going to capsize. That guy said that. Go look it up. Hank Johnson. There's somebody in the chat room I wanted to address. The Iceman cometh. Good comment. I want to comment on it. Iceman says, I watched the movie After Tiller. Obviously referring to George Tiller, the late-term abortionist, yesterday. Very disturbing, to say the least. The slant, this is why I'm commenting on this, the slant to make pro-life people look evil was blatant. Iceman, you fit right into the front line with Joe and Joe, because this is one thing we say on the show all the time. Okay, all of this is a spiritual battle, and part of the spiritual battle is to call good evil and evil good. Remember something, Iceman. We are here. If any of these people heard this, Mondaire Jones and Hank Johnson and Al Sharpton, they would call us racist for what we're saying. We're advocating the protection of human life, for all human life, but primarily for African Americans, because they're disproportionately represented in this atrocity. And we're evil. They want to kill black babies, and they're good.
And
think about that.
And Ben Watson's black. And he's been saying this for some time. Alveda King is black. And she's been saying this. No coverage, nothing. It's a disgrace.
It really is.
I'm going to be honest with you. It's a disgrace. This is something that people should be talking about.
Oh, sure.
Not a word.
Right. And pro-life people need to start doing the left hurls accusations, false accusations of racism against people. Remember something. We talk about him on the show all the time. Ibram Kendi, the supposedly critical race theorist. He says if you use phrases like big government and tax cuts and things like that, you're a racist. Okay. So like, just on policy positions, if you take certain policy positions, you're a racist, but then the same person won't look at this stuff and come to the conclusion, you know what, something, Planned Parenthood really has they really have a hard time with black babies coming into the world. Maybe we ought to do something about this. But can we go from the evil to the insane part of this? All right. Because this was part of this article that, yeah, the article focuses on this what you want to call it, fake apology from Alexis McGill Johnson, and the New York Times giving her a platform. Okay, at the end of the day, we'll leave it there. We'll just say, no, if you want to stop being racist, stop killing black babies. I think that would be the best way to put it. But remember, Planned Parenthood is also woke, and there's a lot of feminists who, let's say, for argument's sake, are under fire right now. We were at a friend's house last night. We were talking because that's what we do all the time, kitchen table stuff, and because that's what we do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. And we were talking about all this wokeness and everything else, and the language that you have to use. Well, we were talking about Martina Navratilova. Now, Martina Navratilova is a feminist and a lesbian. They hate her because she's speaking out against the transgenderism in girls' sports. Okay, so now this is where I say this goes to insanity, and I love your comments on this. So here comes the woke. Rather than, you guys got to catch this, rather than improving itself, the big Planned Parenthood reckoning involves the 100-year-old abortion business transforming into a full-service, intersectional, critical race theory embracing social justice warrior organization. That's where they're moving, by the way. So now it's not just a matter of, let's say, they even said in the article, this means no more centering women's health. See how they're woke? See, if you're talking about just women, that's become racist too. And that's why I say it goes from evil to insane, because what they're also saying that's transphobic and racist. So if you're focused on women, it's transphobic and it's racist. So
can men get abortions?
I know that. This is why I'm saying that's why I'm saying that. In other words, would it, in this bizarro world that we live in, when we're talking about wokeness and Planned Parenthood and this and that, and you can't, that would be the question. Say, can a man have an abortion? Can a man who thinks he's a woman, okay, walk into Planned Parenthood and say, I want an abortion? And the girl, because mostly it's girls, sitting behind the counter is going to say, yeah, but I'm not sure if you're equipped for that anatomically. So you're probably not pregnant. You probably had too much to drink last night. Yeah. But really, this is what it comes to. So it says, Planned Parenthood has a, quote, a history of focusing on white womanhood relentlessly. I don't even know what that's about, white womanhood. Okay. And McGill Johnson was apologetic that when we focus too narrowly on women's health, we've excluded trans and non-binary people. We've claimed the mantle of women's rights to the exclusion of other causes the women of color and trans people cannot afford to ignore. Now, we just got done with the women of color part. You are obviously not, you don't care for women of color because you encourage them to kill their babies. So let's dispense with that. But where does the transgender ideology come into this?
I don't even know how that makes any sense whatsoever.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if I pretended to be a woman, can I walk into Planned Parenthood and say, no, damn it, I'm pregnant and I want an abortion? They're going to say, well, we'll bring you in the back room. We'll hook you up. We'll tell you had an abortion if it makes you feel better, and then we'll give you a pill and send you. Like, I don't get it, but that's where it becomes absolutely insane.
That's why, listen, ultimately, sadly, politics in this country is pathetic. And I'm going to tell you why. Because people just vote for categories, identity politics. That's why you should listen to that interview we had with Dr. Joshua Mitchell from Georgetown on Veritas Catholic Network. Mm-hmm. People don't think. They just vote. I remember when Romney was debating Obama, he said, no matter what happens, 47% of America is going to vote for you. That's sad. But here's the good news. It's the independents that determine the president. The independents are not for this. They've shown their hand. Many people sadly thought, some people thought Joe Biden was going to be a center like candidate. He was going to unite us. I knew that was not going to happen from the very beginning. He's the wrapping paper on this radical regime. But don't take my word for it. Look who they've nominated to cabinet positions, one of which is Javier Becerra, one of the most radical people in government.
Anti-Catholic.
Look at who they've nominated and look what they've put forth. The independents are gone. You've lost them. They're gone. And in 18 months, you have not passed one damn thing. In 18 months, you are going to lose the House and you are going to lose the Senate.
Right.
And it's over. It's over. You don't pass anything. That means nothing. And every executive order that you created disappears second one when a Republican takes office. And eventually they will.
Right.
They've overplayed their hand and they've lost the normal person. No one is for this crap.
Haven't they lost a lot of Democrats too? Like
And
we were talking about,
they're
it's
not voting
not
for it.
just independents. If you tell, let's say, a conservative Democrat from the Midwest, okay, they vote Democrat for blue collar reasons more than the social reasons, but nonetheless they're Democrat. They're not going for all this stuff either. Like to break it to the Democrats. Not all Americans hate their bosses. Okay, I don't hate mine. I could be critical of my company. That's legitimate. I don't hate my boss, and I don't hate the fact that he's got a lot of money. And I certainly don't want you raising taxes on him because it's either going to cost me or my friends their jobs. As you point out all the time, you raise taxes, you cost people their jobs. Sorry, that's the way the world works. You're not going to change it, you leftists. All right. So a lot of reasonable Democrats say, no, I don't want you to raise the corporate income tax rate. I like my job. I just got one. Okay. No, and I want to keep it. And you have the Democrats for making all these atrocious proposals, like doing away with fracking. That costs how many tens of thousands of jobs? The Keystone XL pipeline, that costs how many thousands of jobs? Bringing in workers from overseas that Joe Biden and the Republican Chamber of Commerce, so they're guilty too, to cost Americans their jobs. Democrats, conservative Democrats, are not going for this stuff.
Because some of these people, keep in mind, like Arizona, Pennsylvania, their states are purple states. You can't lean crazy. You can't. And that's why they haven't passed the damn thing. Joe Biden is not a moderate.
No.
He's the wrapping paper. People say that they want him gone and Kamala to basically take over. I'll be honest with you. I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. She can't hold the Democratic Party together. He's the wrapping paper. She's the underlying message. Basically, the Democratic Party has embraced her message.
Right.
But Joe Biden is the wrapping paper. Normal Democrats, and there are many, they're not buying it.
Right.
Because you haven't passed anything. And you've lost the independence. When you want a boy to be on a girls' softball team,
that's right.
They're gone.
That's right.
They're gone.
They shake their head, and we're going to get into people are reacting. See, woke corporate America is trying to ram this nonsense down your throats too. We're rebelling against them too. So, and again, this has nothing to do with, let's say, for argument's sake, Republican, Democrat. It has to do with sane and insane, which is what corporate America's become. It's what the Democrat Party has become. Okay, because even though they're not monolithic, they are a majority hard left party. That's what they are. And you can just tell in their policies. And like you said, how does anybody put their trust in a party whose best policy solution on a daily basis is to say the other party's racist? Well, that's not a policy solution. And it's not.
Listen, like I said, they're in trouble because you can't even pass things and you have the majority because your ideas are bad. Sorry.
See, Joe says things a little bit more politely than I do. I will put it like this. Their ideas suck. And you know what? And the thing is, they know it. And getting back to the original story, Planned Parenthood knows that they are an evil, racist organization now, and their founder was too. And they're trying to bet their best to shed that image while at the same time saying, no, we're helping African-American women. You're killing African-American babies. That's what you're doing, and this country needs to abolish abortion once and for all. Or states need to start just bucking the federal government and kicking out Planned Parenthood. Do you know there's not one abortion clinic in Missouri?
That's great.
It shows you that it can work. There's not one abortion clinic in Missouri. Now, you're not going to tell me that there's not one woman in Missouri that wants to have an abortion. I'm sure there is, okay? But there's not one abortion clinic in the state of Missouri. Why can't we get 20 states to do that? Why can't we get 30 states to do that? That would be pretty good, wouldn't it?
And like I said, if you disagree with what we're saying or don't believe, look up Ben Watson, look up Alveda King. They are African-American people, and they've been saying this for some time.
That's right.
So this is not a new revelation. It's never covered. You should talk about it. When people talk about systemic racism, throw that one out. Say, oh, I know there's systemic racism. Clearly, it's in the abortion industry. 86% of all Planned Parenthood clinics are in minority neighborhoods. Why aren't we addressing that? Watch them stutter.
That's right. And by the way, just one final point, when people think in their minds by opening your mouth, do one of our, call it a tagline, call it a rule that Joe and I live by at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. The greatest counter-revolutionary act you could commit right now is to open your mouth and speak the truth. Why is Alexis McGill Johnson coming out with this statement in New York Times, giving her a platform? Because people like you and people like us are opening our mouths. They need to address it, Joe. You see how opening your mouth, we didn't do anything to them. I didn't go to Planned Parenthood and knock on the door and call them racist. No, we get on social media, we make our position known, we call them what they are, and it forces them to have to address it. Now, did they address it fully? Of course not. Let's keep the pressure on them. Keep opening your mouth, whether it's in private company, wherever it is on social media, keep opening your mouth. The pressure works. It works. So you're at the Frontline with Joe and Joe Pasillo and Joe Resinello. And man, when you're on this subject, you're way in the breach. Sunday night, 8 o'clock. We're going across all social media right now. Please like, subscribe, share. Help us in any way you can. Like we tell you all the time, we're really growing. We'd like to grow more. And you could do that. And please, of course, keep us in your prayers. Now, speaking of prayers, there's a lot of times that things happen, okay, to people who outwardly you say, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not going to speak for you guys. I'm not going to speak for Joe. Say, well, I don't want to pray for that person. And I'm wrong for doing that. We need to pray for people, particularly those who are lost, really lost. And this girl died 2 weeks ago. And there's a reason why Joe and I are going to talk about it.
This story is coming from Life News. A young activist who lobbied Argentina to legalize abortion is believed to be the first woman to die from a supposedly, and this is in quotations, safe and legal abortion in the country. Her name is Maria del Valle Gonzalez Lopez. She was 23 years old. She died along with her unborn baby April 11th after taking abortion drugs that she was prescribed at the Arturo Lina Hospital in La Paz. News outlets confirmed that Gonzalez Lopez was the president of it's an organization called Radical Youth in La Paz in Mendoza, Argentina, one of the groups that lobbied the country to legalize abortion last year. Pro-life, this is what a pro-life activist, his name is Guadalupe Baton, he tweeted out. He said, Maria Del Valle was 23 years old and had her whole life in front of her. She was a student and had become the president of Radical Youth in Mendoza. She had a legal abortion on Wednesday, and by the weekend, she was dead. I'm telling you this because the feminists remain silent. Once again, a tragedy occurs. Mm-hmm. And this didn't happen 100 years ago. This happened 2 weeks ago in a hospital. And this girl, 23 years old, is dead. Right. No coverage. No one cares. It doesn't shock me in the least. Doesn't shock me in the least. You know why? Because abortion is not pro-woman. It's not pro-woman. All it is this. It's a byproduct of the sexual revolution. People have recreational sex. And as we all know, I have 4 kids. When you have sex consistently, you usually produce a child. It's the way it works. Contraception isn't 100% guaranteed, no matter what form you're taking. So what do? They get rid of the child. Right. Because you're not committed to one another. It's an activity.
Abortion becomes the contraception.
Correct. You know, and until that's addressed, we will never get rid of abortion. We'll never get rid of it. You see, this is where, I'll be truthful with you. People poo-poo conservative ideas, conservative values. Listen, I poo-pooed ideas when I was a young man, but I'm going to tell you this. When push comes to shove, this is the gospel truth. Chastity until marriage. Sex within the marriage covenant. 2 people committed to one another. They have a child. They raise the child for life. Right.
Works. And this girl, because she was fed a lot of indoctrination, Okay, remember, Argentina only recently legalized abortion. Okay, and they're teetering with it because there's a big fight going on in Argentina about this. Okay, a lot of people obviously are not happy about this. This girl was an activist. Okay, she wanted abortion legal, but Belen Lombardi in Argentina. She's a young mother and a pro-life advocate. Activist in Argentina. She said if Maria had died, now this is the hypocrisy part. You mentioned it also about the media. Okay, if Maria had died from a clandestine abortion, the feminists would be tearing the whole country apart. Now, there's no doubt about that. If she went into a back alley because Argentina is pro-life and does not allow abortions, okay, the country there would be riots. Is basically what it would be if she died. She died after receiving chemicals being given to her to kill the life of her baby in the womb that subsequently killed her. But it was all done legally. It was all done by quote unquote medical professionals. Okay. And now what do? Because they don't know what to say. They're caught. It's like getting caught and you don't know what to say. You can't lie your way out of it. So what do? Sweep it under the rug. Don't talk about it at all.
The press won't cover it. And this is why the press, particularly, I can't speak for the press in Argentina. They're the enemy of the American people.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of the problems. Like we talk about what we just talked about systemic racism in the abortion industry in America. Why isn't that covered? It's not going to be covered. It's not going to be covered. You see, this is a problem. And especially what we're seeing now with regard to some of these platforms censoring people. News just doesn't get covered. It doesn't get covered. And this is a problem, big problem in America right now. And to be honest with you, it's going to hurt the conservative platform much more than it will the liberal platform.
Can I give you a hopeful sign, though, before I came on?
Thank you, brother.
Thanks, Colin. $20 USD. You're the man. And thank you all for supporting us. You know, we love your prayers and we ask you to keep supporting us. Mainly, not everybody could give money. Colin, thank you. But just make sure you help us with the algorithms. You like and you share and you do all that fun stuff. Before, I kind of forgot my thought, but before coming over, what were we talking about?
No, we were just talking about, what's it called? The press, conservative press, basically.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I was watching a clip from this morning with Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures, who I've really grown to like. I really have. I've never disliked her, but I think she's a fairly hard-hitting journalist. She asks really good questions of people, okay? And she had on James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. Now, I'm only bringing this up as an answer to you to tell you something hopeful. James O'Keefe is suing. See, he's a guy, he does what we said, that when you file a lawsuit against the media, don't settle. Fight them to the end. Bring it to a jury verdict. Change the standards in the law that allow them to get away with it. Because if you settle, what happens? The law doesn't change and the standards don't change. But if you fight them all the way to the end, you know what happens? Then the standards change and the law changes. And then moving forward, that media outlet's not going to be able to do or say whatever they want. The current standard is New York Times versus Sullivan. And I say this is a hopeful sign. James O'Keefe has filed a lawsuit in New York State. Oh, $5 from
Australia.
The Iceman coming from Australia. Thank you very much. James O'Keefe from Project Veritas is doing just that. He told Maria Bartiromo, don't settle. Fight it all the way to the end. Go to a jury verdict. That's what we're going to do in our case. He's suing the New York Times and he's suing CNN. Why? This is what we talk about on the show all the time, Joe. They libeled him. You see, but they're shielded because of the way the laws currently are. This is gonna be a very big defeat for them, Joe. And there was a motion to dismiss the case that he has overcome. Project Veritas has overcome the motion to dismiss the case. The case is moving forward. Now, do you want to see the media start to get truly apoplectic? Okay, wait to see if O'Keefe wins this case, and it starts to put them back on their heels. That means, you know what they can't do anymore? They can't call you a racist, okay? Unless you're wearing a sheet over your head and burning a cross on a black person's yard, okay, or saying blatantly racist things, they can't call you a racist if you're for tax cuts or if you're against socialism or if you're pointing out that Planned Parenthood kills black babies. They can't call you that anymore because it'll be considered libel. and defamation of character. If this standard changes, and we need to pray that it does, okay? If this standard changes and O'Keefe is successful, the media is going to be really, really put back on their heels in this country. Really put back on this. And quite frankly, and this is the reason why I'm bringing it up, because you mentioned it, that's what needs to happen. That's what needs to happen to the media. They have to stop. We cannot allow them to censor our voices. We could get into big tech, not now. That's going to be the next shoe to drop. But pushing back on the media and making sure that they know you cannot just say anything you want about somebody without there being consequences. And to put a finer point on the story about Maria del Valle Gonzalez Lopez, we mostly here, all of us are all Catholics, and I assume that we're probably nearly all Christian, okay? Let's pray for her soul. This was a lost girl,
23.
Okay, 23 years old, all right? Died tragically. Regardless of the circumstances, we are called upon as disciples of Christ to pray for her soul. I have been. I hope that you will. I know Joe has. Pray for her soul and that Christ forgives her of her sins.
We're going to change gears here. We're going to talk a little DeSantis action. This comes from LifeZet. Basically, DeSantis signs an anti-riot bill that enhances penalties for crimes committed during a riot. In case you haven't heard about it, we're going to break it down.
This is great, by the way. It's great.
The Florida bill features many changes to the state's criminal and administrative law. For instance, makes it difficult for cities and counties to reduce funding for the police. It allows governments to be sued if they fail to stop a riot.
2 thumbs up.
Grants civil legal immunity to people who drive through protests blocking a road.
I want to come back to that one. Go ahead.
Creates a new aggravated riot second-degree felony charge for crimes stemming from riots of over 25 people. And it doesn't allow rioters to be bailed out of prison prior to their first court appearance. You see, this is how, listen, when you're in a fight and they're playing to kill, you have to play hardball. This is hardball. Listen, I've learned this through corporate America. When I first entered the corporate arena, I was an auditor, and you'd have a disagreement with the business, and I would try to hash it out with the person. Never succeeded, ever. I don't do that anymore. I go into an office, and I call their boss. And guess what happens? Problem solved. I don't even raise my voice. This is how you solve the problem. You solve the problem by hitting them in the pocket, by putting them in jail, by changing the law. You don't have to get crazy to change it. And he gets it. Now what you do, if people gather over 25 people, you arrest them.
That's right.
You don't have to do anything. And the law is on your side. That's what they did. And before the election, they changed the law. They did. State secretaries of states. This is not. This is a fact. This happened in states. They changed the law. Well, guess what? And they weren't elected officials. He's elected,
right,
and signed this into law. You hit them in the pocket. Listen, you get a $10,000 bill, you'll stop your behavior.
Yep.
You will, or you'll get another one. And that's all you do.
That's it.
You just keep giving them fines, or you put them in jail.
Right.
And it ends.
And what's the problem here?
It ends.
Let me tell you something. If every sane state, which there's more sane states than there are insane states, we are in New Jersey. So, of course, we live in an insane state. Okay. State started forces, at the very least, you know what's going to happen? There ain't going to be no riots in Florida.
No way. Not to mention, he's basically giving someone, Joe wanted to get back to it, immunity that if you get in my way and I feel like my life is threatened, I could run you over.
Right.
I could run you over.
Right.
If I feel threatened, say I'm with my family and you're in my way in my minivan,
and they're banging on the
hood of my car, just run you over.
Right.
In plain English.
Right.
Bye, guys.
Right. Or keep moving until you move out of the way. And if your ankle gets caught under the wheel and I break your ankle, sorry, I didn't tell you to get in front of my car.
Or bang on my.
And in Joe's example, he's got his kids in the back seat. And it's between his kids and your ankle, you're going down.
That's
and
it.
right. And DeSantis has been watching the front line with Joe and Joe. I'm telling you, because his terse and concise statement when questioned about this was, quote, "This isn't a game," close quote, because it's not. He's got the power in Florida to actually put forth sensible conservative positions on a whole variety of things, whether it was lockdowns and all that stuff, okay? Riots in the streets, let's say, in Florida, and he's saying, absolutely not. The answer is no. I have the power to do this. You could call me racist. You could call me this. You could call me that. I don't care. This is what we're doing because my job is to protect the people of the state of Florida, and that's what he does. And he does it in a very matter-of-fact way, which is what we love about him even more. Again, quote, this isn't a game.
And here's the thing. It's a second-degree felony, which means you're going to jail.
You're going to jail.
Listen to me. That's how people understand that. I'll give you a very simple example. I remember in Hoboken, we lived near Hoboken, St. Patrick's Day, they'd have a parade. It got out of control. Hoboken used to be a very rough neighborhood. And then as, New York flourished, it became very expensive to live there. So the parade escalated and it would get crazy. People would be peeing in front of $1 million apartments. So all the police did was this. They basically said, if you pee, it's a $2,000 fine. Guess what happened?
No more peeing.
Stop. When you hit people in their pocket or you arrest them, it's over. The party is over.
But that is precisely what they did not do.
Exactly.
In Minneapolis, in Portland, and see, I was their mistake.
That was a mistake. I said it in the summer.
But you said it right when you call it a mistake. It is a mistake. But remember, I don't give these mayors, like the mayor of Portland, the mayor of Seattle, the mayor of Minneapolis, okay? I don't give them enough credit, all right, to say that they made a mistake. I think that what they did was deliberate.
Oh, I know they did. I actually think it was Trump's mistake. You see, that was Trump's mistake. They did it deliberately. Minneapolis, they let the police department burn to the ground. Sorry, not happening, guys. And here's the deal. If you're governor or you're mayor, this is all you do. I'm going to tell you how you stop it. In two things. One, you say, I am bringing in the National Guard. I'm the president, and you are not responding. And it's your job to respond. You're in government. It's governmental malfeasance. Number one. Number two, you want to resist and do all your nonsense in your ridiculous states like New Jersey, like California. All you do as the president is this. I'm not giving you any federal dollars.
Right.
Resist all you want. Have fun. You get $0.
That has to actually happen.
And when that happens, it ends.
It
ends.
You're right, Joe.
I'm telling you right now.
No, you're absolutely. But one thing that does need to start happening in this country, and the senators and the representatives from red states in particular need to start standing up. The federal government should not be allowed anymore to take money from one state and give it to another. That's one of the solutions where, let's just say for argument's sake, Texas. Majority of representatives from Texas are going to be, let's say, conservative, for whatever that's worth. Conservative. They go to Washington and they say, you want to know what? We're gonna propose legislation. We don't take money from states anymore to give to New York, to give to California, to give to Illinois. We're not doing it anymore. We're not taking money from hardworking people who live in states that actually are run in a very sound way and giving it to Bill de Blasio or Cuomo or Murphy here in New Jersey or Newsom out there in California or Pritzker in Illinois. No, you're not getting any more federal money. That's another solution because they spend recklessly and they tax recklessly, knowing that they're going to get money from the federal government. That's another practice that's got to come to an end.
And here's the thing. I'm an American and I believe in protest. You can protest. A protest is you get a permit and you protest from 9 to 5 and then you go home. You don't hurt anyone. You don't burn things down.
Mm-hmm.
That's a protest. Do that every day. And if you don't like my ideas, well, there's a system. It's called the legislative system. Put a bill up, pass it, and put it forth. I'm for that too. But you do not have a right to resist the president of the United States. And here's the deal. I'm the president. He wasn't, I'll be honest with you, Trump's rhetoric, if you ask me, was just that. It's rhetoric. He didn't act enough upon it. He should have sent in the National Guard. I never would have permitted that. I'm sorry. Minneapolis was not burning to the ground under my watch. And guess what? The National Guard, I said it when it was happening, that would have stopped in an hour.
Right.
In an hour.
He should have come out and he should have told the mayor, all these mayors, every single one, where the riots were taking place, you have 24 hours.
Or I'm doing it.
Or I'm doing it.
Without an apology.
Without an apology.
Without an apology.
I'm giving you the opportunity to be a leader in your state and to protect the citizens of your state. I give you 24 hours. If I don't see massive police presence,
I'm doing it.
And the state guard, they could have had the state, I think probably the state guard.
In an hour.
And send them in there. If I don't see that in 24 hours, the National Guard is coming in.
It's over.
And we will put down that riot.
It's done. It's over. It's over. You want to see, look at what happened in Seattle when the Seattle police finally broke up that shop community. It was over within hours.
Right.
They walked the line and they just broke the whole thing up. And 2 kids died because they didn't stop that. They were teenagers and they were black.
Right.
You don't have a right to hurt people. I got news for you. If Catholics were hurting people, if conservatives were hurting people, I would speak out against it.
Sure.
You don't have a right to hurt people. Sorry. You have a right to protest. You have a right to the process. You do not have a right to hurt people. And that was his mistake. That was his mistake. He should never have allowed it. And listen, this resistance, what do they call it? These communities, they called them like, they were like these
autonomous zones.
No way. Sorry.
Right.
Doesn't work that way. It's getting broken down. Sorry. And if a governor is not going to do his job or her job, well, guess what? I'm the president, just like what Cuomo did with de Blasio. De Blasio was holding back on the police. Cuomo actually stepped in. He said, I'll take you out of your position because I can do it. He said that.
I know. I remember
and
that.
He's a Democrat.
Yep.
Well, the president could do that too. That's within his power, and it should have been done. And he should have said, listen, protest all you want. Pass the legislation. I'm for it. But you're not hurting people.
Right.
And that was a mistake. It was a mistake. And that's how this stops. This has to stop. And we're getting close to it. And I actually think people are getting fed up.
No, people are absolutely getting fed up. We're seeing it. We're seeing it across the board. We're seeing it across all sorts of issues. And one of the places also that's of grave importance to you guys out there, and Joe and I here at the Frontline with Joe and Joe, is very, very big and powerful corporations. We're fed up with them too. Let's talk about how we're going to start resisting them.
This is a great article, and this is something to take note of, because this is something I don't even think this is just a conservative idea. I think this is an American idea, and we should rally upon it. Basically, Republicans can and should lead the next great antitrust movement. This is coming from CNS News, and Josh Hawley is offering some solutions. Hawley obviously is from Missouri, and he introduced a bill entitled the Trust Busting for the 21st Century Act. This welcomed legislation would ban mergers and acquisitions with market capitalizations that surpass $100 billion.
Great move.
Give the FTC new powers to stop dominant digital firms like Twitter and Facebook from buying out potential competitors. Importantly, updating the Sherman and Clayton antitrust acts by establishing the direct evidence of anti-competitive behavior, which would be enough to support an antitrust claim. This, in turn, would theoretically allow dominant firms to be broken up without getting bogged down in arguments between economists.
Which is, by the way, that struck me when I found this article. Okay, these arguments between economists. At some point, you have to say, I don't care what the economists have to say. See, that's what Josh Hawley's saying, because he's a very matter-of-fact guy. Another guy's been watching the Frontline with Joe and Joe. Trust me, okay? He's saying, I don't care about your esoteric arguments about like how the economy should work and what the government should do or not. I don't care. He's saying, this is what I see with my eyes. Here's a danger. No more mergers worth more than $100 billion. I don't have to listen to any economist on that. I'm happy. Let them compete against one another. Why is it necessary that two companies, both worth $100 billion, need to merge and become that much more powerful? Why? What right do they have to do that? And then they use that power, as we're seeing now. We started this conversation by saying we're fed up. What are we fed up with? We're fed up with woke capitalism, with crony and censorship and crony capitalism. And threats from Coca-Cola and Delta Airlines and Apple and Google
Major League
and
Baseball.
Major League Baseball. They already announced that last week. Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley said, we are going to look into baseball's monopoly
And
that they've had
that's
for
how you
100
stop
years.
it.
Exactly. Resinello's right. That's how you stop it. Direct action. I don't want a commission that's going to investigate this, and they're just going to sit around.
Oh,
they're going to talk. Joe, they're going to talk. You, Mr. Economist, you went to Dartmouth, and you, Mr. Economist, you went to the University of Chicago, and you, Mr. Economist, you went to Stanford, and they go through them all, and they talk about, and they sit up there, thank you for your question, Senator so-and-so, and thank you for your question, Representative so-and-so, and nothing gets done.
Break them up.
Break them up.
And this is one of the, I think this is key. And every American who loves free speech and thinking for themselves should throw their unconditional support behind this bill. Again, the bill is called the Trust Busting for the 21st Century Act. The bill basically puts corporations who are trying to control us in the crosshairs. Very important. You want to take a step towards being free again? This is the bill.
Right.
This is the bill. And in the meantime, boycott these companies. Boycott them.
Right.
Listen, people, I said this recently on a post in social media. Someone was talking about LeBron James. They smack you in the face and you thank them by giving them money and making them rich.
So who's stupid, them or us?
Stop giving the money.
Right.
Stop giving money to Disney. Stop going to movies with Hollywood or buying their DVDs. Stop it.
Oh,
Stop giving money to Starbucks.
Here's a very good point. When along the lines of what we're saying, that was in this article, not being allowed to buy your competitor. To me, that's huge. See, remember something. This is a true economic statement. Okay, competition. It's not theoretical. It's true. You could see it in everyday life. Competition amongst firms enables for prices to come down and for quality to go up. That benefits us, you guys, Joe, me, all of us. We want lower prices and we want the highest quality. Okay. And then what we do is we do our shopping. You might pay a higher price because you like that person's product more. You might want to pay a lower price because, quite frankly, you can't afford the other one. But either way, competition is good. So no, just because a company's big doesn't mean that they have an unfettered right, Sean Hannity and the rest of you Chamber of Commerce conservatives out there. You don't have an unfettered right to say, well, if I want to buy them, I can buy them. No. You exist within the context of the law. And if the law says you can't just go out and buy your competitors to do away with your competition, then that's what the law says. And ultimately, a law like that, like this one that we're talking about, is going to benefit us. Which is who the economy is supposed to benefit anyway. It's supposed to benefit us. If you're a business owner, you make money. God bless you. I hope you make a lot of money. I hope you have a successful business. But the second you think you're more important in American culture and society than we are,
average American,
that's the problem.
Or when you corner the market, basically, and that's what you're seeing. Stop giving the money.
Right.
I'm telling you. And this is the type of bill that we have to back. And you know something? Democrats should back it because eventually it could be used against you.
Right.
This is not what America is about. It's not what America is about. And you know something? They're using leverage on you. Why don't you use it back?
Right.
Stop giving them money. Stop giving them money.
Don't think $10 a month or $13 a month to Netflix is a small deal. It is a very big deal. Because if you do it, and I do it, and Joe does it, and a whole bunch of other people do it, that $13 goes from $13 a month that they lose to $13 million a month that they lose to $39 million a month that they lose as more and more people tell, I'm just using Netflix as an example, we're not giving you any more money. Well, why? Well, I have my reasons. We don't have to go into it. We know that Hollywood is just completely evil anyway. But nonetheless, don't think, thank you, brother. Ed just dropped in $5 US. Thank you so much, Ed. Don't think that these, starting with yourself, these minor boycotts that you do, and start to be more, be more eclectic in the choices you make. Okay. Be better stewards of your money.
That's all.
Okay. And guess what? Then a lot of these companies are going to need to be less woke because they're making less money. And if we need legislation, this is where we're going to get some resistance from conservatives. If there's legislation that's needed to help this along, then there's legislation needed. And you know what? Josh Hawley understands that. He gets it. The government can, in fact, I was very enthused when I saw the press conference with Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, and Josh Hawley when they said, we are going to take away Major League Baseball's monopoly that they've had for 100 years. That was my response.
Good.
I looked at the TV, I went, good. That's exactly what should happen. And these other measures are great too.
And I'm telling you, that's how you have to fight this. That they get it.
Real quick, Mary said something that was already in my head. Mary said, give the money to Joe and Joe instead. Yeah, Mary, if you could give $13 a month to Netflix, all right? Joe and I have patreon.com Frontline with Joe and Joe, all right? Hey, we got six subscribers on there. 6 can become 6,000, can become 600,000. If you want to drop in a few bucks, you can go as low as $5, as high as $100. Go on Patreon. You'll find Joe and me there, Frontline with Joe and Joe. But thank you, Mary. Thank you for the one of the things that Craig Shirley in this article said that I thought was just, again, very matter of fact, to the point. That's what we are here. We're matter of fact and to the point. Craig says, this can be our issue, conservatives. This breaking up of these rather large corporations. I think you're right. It's not that it can be our issue. It must be our issue. But he says, conservatives need to decide soon, okay? That because otherwise we'll be living in one of those weird dystopian fantasies where the world is run by 3 or 4 massive corporations, and we aren't as far off as you might think. Here's the line I love. Government is the umpire, and the umpire needs to call big corporate America out at home. That is exactly what needs to happen. You know what I was reminded of when you'll appreciate this, when I was looking at this story. Remember the movie Meaning of Life, Monty Python? There's it, which I always thought was an hysterical movie, okay? But the very beginning of the movie is a spoof, like and the shot is of the door of the boardroom, and the name on the placard on the door says the very big corporation. That's exactly what I'm reminded of. And they're all sitting around. It's like, well, we have to have this meeting so we could realize just how much more there is to own. And they're going through all these things. I thought it was hysterical. Now it's a spoof, it's a parody, but you want to know something? If you think that mentality does not exist in corporate America, where they just want to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they want to have control. Here's the nefarious part, and then we'll move on. It's the control that they seek beyond the money. The control that they think they can't go into a state.
The politics, which basically that's where I think they've crossed the line. If you ask me, I think it was foolish. It was a bad business decision. We've talked about this on other shows. They should have kept their mouth shut,
right? Truthfully,
and kept making money. Because now what's going to happen is you're in the crosshairs of a political party that will one day have power again.
Away from that. Into it because this is Joe hit it right on the head. And again, there are people out there, good conservatives, okay, not fake conservatives or conservatives in name only. We know those types, all right, the Mitt Romneys of the world. Okay, there are really good conservatives out there who you just know intuitively. You just know they're not full of crap. They actually want to help us. They are actually for the working man, the everyman. Okay, and Rick Scott's one of them.
And Cassandra Fairbanks published this in Gateway Pundit. Check out Senator Rick Scott, as Joe just said rightly. He published a scorching letter to woke corporations. I just want to give you a little taste of it. You could look it up after the show, and you could read the entire letter. It's fantastic. This is what he had to say. He said, "Dear woke corporate America, I hope you're having fun with your virtual signaling." Now, this is a senator of the United States in Florida. As Joe said, he was at one time the governor of Florida. Mm-hmm. "I hope you're enjoying trying to one-up each other and showing how woke you can be, all the while believing that you are more sophisticated and morally superior to the hardworking people of this country. You must have loved the accolades from your elitist left-wing peers when you took the Major League Baseball All-Star game away from Georgia. What a fun day for you on Twitter. Congratulations. You get texts from your elitist friends praising you for your courageous stand when you support mostly peaceful movements that loot small businesses, set fire to government buildings, and take the lives of innocent people away." This dude's not playing games. Oh, no. And this is a senator of the United States. He goes on, he says, "You know that the Georgia law actually expands early voting and does nothing to suppress or curtail the voting rights of anyone? And yes, The Georgia law does require ID to vote. Well, so does Delta Airlines, and so does Major League Baseball in order to pick up tickets. It's not that you have twisted the truth, you have rejected the truth. Worse, you don't care what the truth is, and people see it. And again, forget about the people who are going to vote for the Democrats no matter who they are. If Ronald McDonald became a Democrat, they would vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't determine the election. It's the moderates. You've already showed your cards. And he's saying it.
Right.
You've shown your cards. You haven't passed the damn thing. He goes on. Let me give you woke corporate leaders a heads up. This is the important part. Everyone can see the game you are playing. Everyone can see your lies. This is a senator in the United States. You are the naked emperor. You are, in fact, morally inferior to the working men and women of this great country who are not racist and who, unlike you, care about the truth.
Amen.
And here's another bit of news for you. There is a massive backlash coming. You will rue the day when it hits you. That day is November 8th, 2022. And that is the day the Republicans will take the Senate and the House, and it will be a day of reckoning.
Can't wait.
And when that does happen, Joe Biden's regime is over.
Over.
You get nothing done. It becomes a pen and a phone. And the day that they lose, everything goes away.
Just like Biden did with Trump's executive orders. Okay, just like he did. That's the way executive orders work. The new regime comes in. But here's what I like more than anything about this, because they won't stop. See, these corporations, they just won't stop. So they take all their employees in a morning meeting and they force them to watch a video. Our friend Artie, who we had dinner with yesterday, okay? And he was telling my wife and I, he was saying that he was forced to watch a video because he works in New York. He's in corporate America, just like you are. He's forced to watch a video that talks about being exclusionary or avoiding being exclusionary and all this wokeness. There's critical race theory where you have to go and sit at an 8 o'clock morning meeting while you're drinking your coffee, you're exhausted from your commute before you even start working, and the video tells you just how racist you are. And your boss says if you don't hit the I agree button at the bottom and send it back to human resources, you're fired. That's the day of reckoning. That's when the government steps into a corporation and says, you can't do that to your workers. They're going to say, what are you talking about? You can't do that to your workers. You can't tell your workers that they're racist. What are you, smoking crack? I wish one senator would come out at one point and look at these guys and just say it the way I would say it, which is, are you guys smoking crack? Do you think that we're going to let you get away with it? Same with universities. Same with universities. That'll be another one where they're trying to indoctrinate our kids into believing that America is just irredeemably racist, okay? White heterosexual men are irredeemably racist, and of course, homophobic, whatever that word means, okay? And big education, they try to indoctrinate our kids with that. They need to have their dollars threatened too that they get from the federal government, which means what they get from us. All of this is going to come to a head. Why? Because as my brother Joe Resinello always says, you overplayed your hand. You weren't happy to get some of your policies through because because Biden is sitting in the Oval Office, okay? But what you do is you enlist all the forces in the culture war and you attack us. Well, guess what? As Joe said, in 2022, you're going to lose because a lot of the integrity in the individual states is going to get straightened out, okay? And Nancy Pelosi will lose that gavel, and Chuck Schumer, we won't have to listen to him anymore, okay? And his nonsense in 2022. And in 2024, when everything's really straightened out, the Democrats are going to get trounced. Because if they put up Kamala Harris or they put up some of these other, she's got no chance.
No
okay.
chance.
And there are no, if Joe Biden, as Joe correctly described as the wrapping paper, they wrapped him as the moderate, okay, thinking that that's what they could sell. Well, he's the last one, and he's near the end of his life, okay, and he ain't running in 2024. And who do you have left? Then you got to go to one of your radicals, and the American people are going to go, not happening.
Keep in mind, America didn't even go for Bernie Sanders. Joe Biden beat Bernie Sanders. They didn't even go in the Democratic Party. And Bernie Sanders is not even the most radical senator in the U.S. Senate. And who is? Kamala Harris. And she's the vice president.
Right.
No chance. No chance.
Right.
Like I said, sometimes base hits win the day. You showed what you're about. You showed what you're about. Everyone sees it. And forget about the Democrats. It's the moderates. You've lost them already. You're in the office 6 months. You've lost them. You can't even convince your senators that are Democrats to vote for your ideas. You're going to win? You're going to get anything done? I got news for you. Barack Obama didn't pass much.
No.
Keep that in mind.
The American people.
Barack Obama passed one piece of legislation.
Obamacare.
And after that, for the most part, Barack Obama didn't pass much.
He did enough damage, though, whatever he could do.
By the way, this regime is radically more leftist than Barack Obama.
Yeah.
Radically
Right.
more. You can't get nothing done, guys.
Well, and let's and this is where, like Rick Scott said, it's going to come back to bite them. The letter itself concluded by asserting, and I love this, quote, "A good and great people are going to rise up and stand up for the truth. They're going to stand up for their principles. They are going to stand up for their country," closed quote. That's exactly what's happening. If a couple of things come together for us, okay, first of all, somebody said it in the chat room, can we please all pray for our nation? Can we start with God, please? Okay, because ultimately if we don't do that, we're lost. So if we want to fight this spiritual battle, this culture war, this political battle, ask God for his help first. Let's start there. But some things, Joe Rossinello, are starting to seem to come together. And that's why we do this show, so we can point out to you guys what's going on out there. James O'Keefe's lawsuit is important. It is so important for us, not for James O'Keefe, for us, because it's going to put big media back on their heels. The Sherman Antitrust Act and updating it to apply to big tech is huge. Listen to me, huge. If you want to know how huge it is, again, Joe and I back everything up with numbers. 17% of Biden voters said, now 17%, which means even if you don't like what happened, let's say during the election, if that 17% went for Trump or didn't vote for Biden, Biden would not be sitting there right now. 17% of those who voted for Biden said, if I knew about Hunter Biden, if I knew about that story, I would not have voted for Joe Biden. Why didn't they know about that story? Because Twitter blocked the New York Post from sharing that on Twitter. It was suppressed. But the reason why I bring this up is these things, as Joe says, it's coming back to bite them in the butt, because the backlash is going on a bunch of different levels, all of which are going to be designed to do what at the end of the day, Joe Rossinello? To get the truth out there. People didn't know the truth about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's involvement in it during the election, or else he wouldn't be sitting there. He would not be sitting in the Oval Office.
With Obama, with what's it called? The embassy with that guy. They basically let him die.
Right.
I can't.
Benghazi.
That was a disgrace.
Right.
That was a disgrace.
But the media.
But that's another conversation. We could talk for 5 hours about that. Mm-hmm. That's another conversation. But at the end of the day, they've just overplayed their hand. And I'll be honest with you, as Rick Scott said, people see it.
That's right. They see it. They need to learn a lesson that we told you guys last week that we all learned it in the first grade. I don't know why they haven't learned it. For every action, there's a reaction. The reaction has started. Okay, people are beyond the election. Okay, I had my problems with it. Joe and I said back in January, we said it is what it is right now. Joe Biden sitting in the Oval Office. There is nothing you could do about that. But now what we have to do is we have to raise our voices and we have to resist. We've been successfully doing that. And now there's other voices out there that are fighting on the fronts that Joe and I and many other people have been recommending for a while. Go after big tech. Go after them. Go after the media. Start to change the conditions under which they operate, forcing them to change. Going after companies, Joe Rossinello, that are way too big. Way too big. I'm sorry. Apple has $1 trillion market cap. Again, we're free marketeers. I don't want to see an American or a global corporation have a larger market capitalization than the gross domestic product of most countries in the world. There's something wrong with that. And we need to start saying so. And we need to stop break them up, and go back at conservatives. Because we're conservative. We're authentic conservatives. Go back at conservatives and say, no, government action is required.
And it's going to happen. They should have kept their mouth shut.
Right.
They kept making money. They blew it. They should have kept their mouth shut.
Who are you talking about?
All these people to censor and in the political arena. Bad move. If I was on the board of those companies, I'm going to be honest with you, I would have been like, shut your face and keep making money. All you had to say is that. Right. Listen, we're not, if you want to run for Senate, CEO of Apple, if Jack Dorsey, go for it.
Right.
But you should have shut up. Because you're not doing your shareholders any good when they do break you up.
That's right.
And they're going
to. And you have violated your fiduciary responsibility. You're in compliance. You know that word very well. Your fiduciary responsibility to your shareholders. That's what you've done. So again, it's all, listen, what do you always say? They have had their hour. God gets his day. And and what do we mean by that? Yes, God, the actual God, okay, has his day. But the truth,
it always comes.
It always
comes to the forefront. You never get away with it forever. It's like if by the time you're 30, if you haven't figured that out, to be honest with you, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
You never. Listen, life doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, and their day is coming. So, like I said, enjoy your hour because that's all you're gonna get.
That's it. And we can't wait for that. We can't wait for the 59th minute and 59th second of that hour. And we're going to tell you, we told you so. We're going to tell you, we told you so. And in the meantime, we need to, it'll hopefully result in these people not having the power that they've enjoyed up to this point. So we got to leave it there. All right. It was an important conversation. All right. Because these are the things that we need to be aware of. We try to let you know about what's going on, who the good guys are out there. And there are good ones, DeSantis, Rick Scott, and others who actually walk the walk. I think that's the best way to put it. They talk it, but then they walk it, and they're actually fighting for us. All right. So we have to remember that. Please remember, follow Joe and I, Facebook and YouTube.
Do it tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. Very important. Stick with us. My alma mater, unfortunately, Seton Hall University, and I love my school. Their radio station, WSOU, and Michael Hitchborn has pointed this out on the Lepanto Institute. Their WSOU is broadcasting not heavy metal and not, let's say, AC/DC, which as Catholics we could have enough of a problem with. They're broadcasting outright satanic bands that have names that I wouldn't even repeat to you, lyrics that I would never even repeat to you. And WSOU, or Seton Hall University, is run by the Archdiocese of Newark. The authority that governs SHU is the Archdiocese, is Cardinal Tobin, okay? So the Tradition and Family and Property, John Ritchie and a bunch of guys are going to Seton Hall tomorrow. I'm going to go at 1 o'clock. I'm going to try to
stream it.
Yeah, I'm going to live stream it on Facebook and then share it everywhere else because I'm just going to have my mobile, but I'll go on Facebook. And this is one of those cases where raising your voice will do something, okay? Cardinal Tobin needs to shut down WSOU or put somebody in charge of regulating their programming. Because the stuff that, like I said, they're broadcasting is satanic. It's not an interpretation on my part. It's outright satanic. I read some of the lyrics and I wish I didn't. Okay, I'm serious, and I have thick skin, but I wish I didn't read it. So at the gate of Seton Hall University, I believe there's going to be prayers. I think the TFP is going to be praying the rosary. I'm going to get there, and I'm going to try to get John Ritchie. Well, he'll let us know what he's doing, what the problem is, give us a lot more details. But then they're going down to the Archdiocese in Newark to go protest in front of Cardinal Tobin's office. And then my understanding is that 6:30 tomorrow night, TFP is going up to Wyckoff, New Jersey, to peacefully pray at a church where Father James Martin is giving a talk, and we all know what he's going to talk about. So busy day for the TFP tomorrow.
So check us out. because tomorrow Joe's going to live stream it, the protest, so it should be good.
Yeah, it should be good. And John Ritchie will give a lot of information about how you could go about contacting the Archdiocese of Newark and telling them, exert your authority on Seton Hall and WSOU and get that satanic programming off the air. Having said that, we want to thank you all for joining us. We passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's a kind of a milestone, all right? And that's small potatoes compared to everything else that you've enabled us to do at the Frontline with Joe and Joe. So we just want to tell you that we love you. You have our tremendous gratitude. We pray for you guys. Let's all pray for each other. And remember, until next week, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you soon.